Hello, in today's video, we're going to be replacing the front brake pads and rotors on this 2005 Honda Civic. And the first thing we do before even lifting it off the ground is set the parking brake and loosen all 5 lug nuts using the 19mm socket. Just loosen them about a quarter of a turn. Now we'll want to set our jack under this pinch weld section just behind the wheel, centering the jack puck with the raised sections on both sides. After lifting it, we'll support it with a jack stand, which I placed mine under the tow hooks. Now that we got it lifted and supported, we can remove the lug nuts and the wheel. Giving us access to our brakes. And now to remove our brake caliper. It'll have 2 bolts attaching it, and for this we use a 12mm socket to loosen both of them. With both of them loose, let's go ahead and remove them. Once we get them both out, let's slide out the caliper and place it out of the way for now. I like to hang it on the strut, but you'll want to be careful that it doesn't fall off. Now to remove the old brake pads, just slide them back and tilt them off of the bracket. And as you can see, this brake pad is pretty glazed, meaning that it's not as grippy anymore, and probably only has like 20% material left, so you don't want to leave it much longer than this. Let's now remove the brake caliper bracket. It'll also be held on by 2 bolts, which we'll use a 17mm socket for. Now that we got them both loose, just remove the 2 bolts with the bracket as well. We're now ready to remove our rotor, which as you can see is badly glazed and uneven. And for this I'll use a number 3 Phillips head screwdriver. And all we do is loosen this screw counterclockwise, which it looks like it loosened up easily. But in case that yours doesn't, I'll have a video in the links or in the description on how to remove them. Also, this rotor's on here loosely, but in case that yours is stuck, you can use an 8mm by 1.25 threaded bolt to pop off your rotor by alternating back and forth with these 2 threaded holes. And here we got our new replacement rotor. We'll have to prepare this new rotor by cleaning off the protective coating using some brake cleaner and a blue towel, or preferably a lint-free towel. And all we do is spray it and wipe the brake cleaner off, removing the coating in the process. We'll also repeat this on the other side. With the rotor prepared, we can go ahead and reinstall it with this hold down screw. Now for these next steps, we'll grab our brake caliper bracket. And the first thing we'll do is replace our brake hardware. It's pretty simple. We just pop off our old ones and clean underneath if we have to. Now reinstall the new ones, lining up the tabs on the brake pad retainers, then push them down. Repeating this on this other one. And with that done, let's lubricate the guide pins. And for this, all we do is pull them out and wipe off the old grease. Now to lubricate them, we'll use some of this disc brake lubricant, wiping it on the pin all around. Now to get it back in, we just push it in and push the rubber boot seal in all around. Doing the same on this other, but this other one will have a rubber insert to keep the caliper from vibrating. But on this one, unfortunately the rubber insert stayed inside, which can happen, or it can also cause the guide pin to stick and be really hard to remove. So to remove it, I'll just use a pick to hook it and pull it out. This rubber insert does have a tendency to swell up over time, so I'm going to be replacing it, but it only comes as a kit with the boots. With our guide pin in hand, let's clean it up using a blue towel. Now that we got it cleaned, let's grab a boot and the rubber insert. Even though this rubber boot doesn't need replacing, I'm going to show you how. The first thing we do is orientate it the same way. Then we pull the old one off, and once we got it off, we slide in our replacement. Making sure that it's fully seated. Let's now install our new rubber insert. And now to lubricate this guide pin. With the guide pin lubricated, reinsert it, and once again getting the rubber seal in all around. If you're having difficulty getting it back in, just use a screwdriver or something similar to push in the edge that sticks out, and you should be able to get the rest in. And now we just verify that it's in all around and that it's able to move freely. For this step, we grab our new and our old brake pads, matching them up, and here we are going to lubricate the contact points. This will help us avoid any sort of vibration that will cause squealing when you brake. So using the old brake pads as reference, we lubricate the areas where, for example on this one, where the piston presses against the pad. And we also lubricate the edges that slide across the caliper bracket. We lubricate this one as well, but for this outer pad, we want to lubricate where the caliper fingers grab against the pad, but we also do the edges as well. With everything ready for install, we now just have to compress our caliper piston to accommodate the new brake parts. And we begin by opening the cap to the reservoir. When compressing the piston, you'll want to keep an eye on this level since the fluid pushes back into this reservoir. If the level begins to get too high, you'll want to remove some before it overflows. Now to compress it, I use an old brake pad and this brake caliper compression tool, setting it up like so. And all we gotta do is rotate it clockwise and this will begin to compress the piston. And we keep rotating it till it bottoms out or pretty close to it. And with this done, all we gotta do now is reassemble everything. One thing you'll want to check at this point is this backing plate that it's not rubbing against the rotor. It's one of the most common reasons for noise after reassembly. With our rotor on, let's reinstall our brake caliper bracket, followed by the two bolts, threading them in by hand first till they tighten up. Now we grab our torque wrench and torque them both to spec. Followed by installing the brake pads, this outer one being the one with the lubrication for the caliper fingers. For this inner brake pad, you want the brake warning tab to be supported against the backing plate when it's driving forward, so we place it so it's on the bottom in this case. With the brake pads on, let's reinstall our brake caliper. followed by the 2 bolts. Once again, threading them in by hand first. Once they're tight, tighten them with the ratchet or torque them to spec. First, don't forget to reinstall a reservoir cap, followed by this very important step. Before moving the car, you want to pump the brake pedal till the pedal stiffens. This will push the pistons back against the brake pads, removing any space between the pistons and the pads, leaving us to the final steps, which are to reinstall and torque the wheels, thus completing this video as well. Well, I hope you were able to find this video helpful and informative. If so, please click that thumbs up button to support my video and my channel, and please subscribe if you haven't done so.